it's an unbelievable feeling to be in a room, a big room or a small room, especially a big, stage, a big theater filled with women and girls that are all singing and really praying together. I really look at concerts as like praying because a lot of the words we sing are words from prayers, are messages that are inspiring.
Welcome to Ordinary People with Extraordinary Stories. I'm Hannah Weisberg, host of this podcast. Joining me today, we have a very special guest. Her name is Devorah Schwartz. Thank you so much for joining us, Devorah.
Thank you for having me. What an honor.
Devorah is a singer, an artist, a performer, and a vocal cords teacher, coach, who uses her talent exclusively for women because she is an observant Torah observant Jew. Devorah, tell us a little about how you got to be what you got to do and how you became so well known in the world of singing. You lead concerts all over the world. You sing for thousands of people, big audiences as well as little. Tell us a little how you got there.
Okay, so there's a long version and there's a short version.
We'll
We'll
take whatever
start
you
with the
give.
sh- we'll start with the short version, and then if you want me to elaborate on any part, I
Sure.
will. The short version is I just worked really hard
Mm,
in every single thing that I did. Um, Not really waiting for opportunities, but figuring out the funding, even borrowing money at point, and just to put stuff out there and really not wait for opportunities to come, but just to make my own opportunities. And I just really, really hustled.
hmm.
Um,
Well,
the longer version,
yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, I guess that's we'll get into that part, like how you actually
Yeah.
did that. But did you always
Yeah.
know that you were going to be a singer? Did you always think that you were going to be a singer? Is this a
No,
childhood dream?
you know what? Like lately I've been thinking that it secretly was a childhood dream. Like
Mm,
I like secretly love to sing, but it wasn't considered like a talent of mine. I come from a very musical family, and from my mother's side specifically, where her grandfather was a chazan and was like a comedian and was
mm,
the Rav, and he was all the things in Israel and in Netanya. And my mother remembers him swallowing and gargling with egg yolks and doing all his warm ups in the morning. And like he used to do bar mitzvah lessons. And my mother was born like just so musical. And my mother would go there to Israel in the summers. And when the boys just weren't getting it, he would like say, come, come. He would like bring his granddad over and like, can you do it? And she just did it in a second. This little
wow.
like 4 year old. She's like, okay. He's like, okay, it's not me, you know? So my mother like really, shone on stage, especially as a dancer, always was choreographing and dancing. And yeah, she also sang.
Hmm,
So as much as like we all grew up singing, dancing was like a big thing in our family, choreographing, creating. And I also was the only artist in the family, like portrait art.
mm,
So my mother like jumped on that to give me lessons. So singing wasn't something that I was known for. I was obsessed with all the female Orthodox artists. There weren't many. There was Kinneret and Malki Ginniger. They used to do big concerts for like 2,000 people in Brooklyn College on Holomoid, like twice a year by Sukkot and Pesach. And I would go with my mother, and I would just sit there with like my mouth open. So
mm.
it wasn't something I ever in my wildest dreams thought that I would be on the other side singing. I
Wow.
consider myself naturally more shy. I definitely grew into myself over the
Interesting.
years, but I was very reserved. So,
Well, it's
yeah.
interesting because a couple weeks ago I did Avram Fried, and he says he's this big introvert, and of course he's a Jewish pop star, singer from way back, and so he says he thinks that most performers or people who are in the arts, a lot of them are introverts. So that's an
Yeah,
interesting.
I don't know if I would say I'm an introvert because I'm married to an introvert
Mm.
and he's really an introvert.
Right.
um, he could just like sit and read books and be by, and just self-entertain. Like I'm not really like that. I really get energy from being with people and
People.
being with crowds.
Right.
So but I'm faster just like to listen to like the center
Mhm.
of someone who else is the center of attention and just like be there listening than me being the center
The
of
center.
attention.
Interesting.
So,
Wow.
yeah, I'm not usually like taking over the conversation,
Right.
but I learned to do that because
When you get on
people
stage,
look to
you have to,
me.
yes.
Yeah, and even just meeting fans,
Mhm,
they it's really important to give everyone the time of day, and
mhm,
they know me even if I don't know them. So it's I've learned that it feels rude to people
mm,
to, to treat like if you don't know a stranger and they don't know you, then you're not really very friendly. But
right.
if someone really knows you, even though you don't know them, it's like sort of like you owe it to people to be super friendly to them. Like, thank you for being my fans. Thank you for listening to my music, So I've learned to just talk a lot.
How did you learn that? Like, how did you learn to change your intrinsic nature?
um, I think I've learned that everyone feels good when
Mm,
you ask them what their name is.
mm,
Nobody doesn't feel good when you say, "Hi, what's your name? Where are you from? What do you
mm,
do?" Like, everyone enjoys attention and being acknowledged.
mhm,
And, um, I remember meeting someone who I follow on Instagram who has many, tens of thousands of followers, and saying, like, going up to her in the grocery store, and I remember the feeling of just, like, being like, should I go over to her? Okay,
right.
I'm gonna go over to her. And I'm like, "Hi, I follow you. I love your whatever, your content." And she's like, "Hi,
Oh.
thanks." And,
Ooh,
like, I remember being like, "Whoa," like,
right,
she's such a snob, like,
right,
right away jumping to that conclusion. But really, it's like she could have been in her own zone and,
right,
like, maybe she wasn't comfortable with what she was wearing, and she's like, "I don't know who you are," you
right.
know?
Probably caught off
Um,
guard, right.
yeah, caught off guard,
Mm,
like, "Oh, do I know you? Oh, I don't know you. Oh, okay." It's, like,
right,
awkward, and it's like, people just don't want that.
mm,
People really want to be warm to them and make them feel special and make them feel acknowledged. So, or I would have go to events and people would look at me to talk, like, let's say at a bas mitzvah, like, there's a bunch of 12-year-olds and you're standing with them, and now what? They're not talking, they're shy. So
right.
you just
They're
have to, like,
starstruck, right?
they're
Yeah,
just, like, there.
right.
So if you don't talk, no one's gonna talk. So I realized, like, I just have to keep talking just to
Mhm,
fill the space because
mhm,
it doesn't really matter what I say. "Oh, I like your hair, it's so cute. What are we doing? Did you taste those lollipops?" Blah, 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 blah. Like, that's so not me. Like,
right.
I'm not a big talker, but I became that because that's sort of like the role that
That you
people
need,
wanted,
right.
and I really enjoy it. I never thought I would, but I really do.
Interesting. It's interesting because
Yeah.
it's a different part of, I guess, being a famous personality. We don't think of those aspects of it, but that's a different part to it that you really have to include people and acknowledge them and say yes, hello to them and all
Yeah,
that.
and without people, then there are no fans.
Right.
You're who's,
Right.
if without the people listening to your music is just exists
Right.
without being appreciated. So it's what we want.
Sure.
So,
100%.
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
let's go back to your story. That's an interesting little diversion, but let's go back to the story. So you're very talented in a lot of areas, and but you were not thinking to be a singer. So what changed? What, like, were you?
So
Did you take lessons? Did you decide at one point, okay, I'm going to be a singer?
so it started from when I was younger. I was like really a tomboy, daredevil. My brother's less than a year older than me, so we were like not twins, but very close to it. I didn't really have, girls in my neighborhood to play with. And there was a whole group of boys. So up until I was 12, I was really one of the gang.
Mm,
We rollerbladed. I lived in Kensington. We rollerbladed in middle of the street. We played in the public school like park handball to get the court, like we were part of the street, literally. And then I turned 12 and my mother's like, now you're bas mitzvah, you can't play with boys anymore. And I'm like, what? So, yeah, so that was, like, an adjustment. My sister's a year younger than me, but, like, loved playing with dolls, and I'm like, "Oh, so boring." I was always, like, action oriented, never wanted to be bored. So I ended up doing gymnastics and dance and drawing sometimes because I was too busy to be drawing, like,
Mm. Takes a lot
So
of patience, right?
yeah.
Mm.
So during class, I have notebooks of all the things I drew during class.
Right.
And I really enjoyed art lessons. I went to art lessons since I'm in second grade through like for 10 years, 12 years. Like I've always been going to art lessons. And then through all of my escapades, the reason why I brought it up is I got injured a lot.
Mm.
I wasn't scared.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know what was wrong with me, but now I'm plenty scared. It caught up. But I would just like snowboard and jump off things and flip and just like not be scared of things. And I broke many bones.
Mm.
And I grew up in a house where like just cut it out, like so what? So you're hurt, like figure it out.
Mm.
And I don't think I got like the empathy or attention that I needed. And um it like always bothered me. So I always wanted to be there for people who were hurt. Like it was so
Mm.
important for me to like be that compassionate person to like take care of someone when they're hurt and acknowledge and like validate their pain.
Mm.
I'm like getting emotional just thinking about it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like so I wanted to be a doctor.
A doctor.
And
Interesting.
yeah, I wanted to be a doctor. I majored in biology and chemistry and I was studying for my pre-med. It was like a criteria. If I'm dating you, you have to let me be a doctor. You have to be
Mm.
okay with that.
Mm.
And I was actually looking for someone who wanted to be a scholar, who
Mm.
was like learning. So it
A
didn't
Torah
like
scholar?
match. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Yes.
Yeah. So when I met my husband and on the first date, I'm like, well, I really want to be a doctor. He's like, great. I'm like, you're okay
Mm.
with it? He's like, yeah, amazing. My mom always wanted a doctor in the family and she never got one. Now she'll get one.
Oh, that's funny.
Till now, she says, you cheated us. You said you're a doctor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know my
I
mother-in-law. So
sure do. I
yeah,
could hear her
yeah.
saying that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
she's like, "You said." Yeah. She's like, "It's okay. We got a what is she calls it a superstar. We got a superstar,
Superstar.
but you were supposed to be a doctor." So throughout all my schooling, I needed to make money on the side, and I was a dance teacher. I had gone to dance lessons also throughout high school.
So this is when
Choreo
you were married already and you were just doing schooling? You were continuing.
So I started school when I was 20, 19, 20, before I was married.
Right.
So on the side, on Sundays and after
Mm.
school,
You would,
college is not every day. I
of
would
course.
teach dance,
Uh-huh.
to make money.
Uh-huh.
And so I worked for Malky Ginniger. Her School of Arts was right near Touro College in Flatbush, where I went to college. And she hired me as her dance, uh, over all the other dance teachers, even though I was like 19 years old.
Mm.
I had like all these people working for me. And we got, hundreds of girls ready for stage performances. So I would choreograph, I would direct, I would teach the entire Sunday, like 6, 7, 8 hours. And I did that for a few years. And she's like, by the way, you can join any class you want here.
Mm.
So my sister's like, yeah, Devorah sings.
Mm.
So the only class they had was 13-year-old girls. So I joined the 13-year-old girls. And that was my first time doing scales. And I even joined the performance. I was the only 19-year-old in the back row. And I even got a solo with the 13-year-olds. And like, I was like so excited. The next year, Malky Ginniger said, "Hey, Devorah, you
So
live in
just for
Muncie."
those who are listening, Malky Giniger is just does performances as well for women and girls.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
So I started off. Yeah, she saw me in sleepaway camp, choreographing dances, and she approached me and she's like, "I want you for my Sunday program." So that's how
Mm.
we made the connection. So she's like, "You live in Muncie. I want to open up a franchise of my School of Arts in Muncie. Do you want to run it?" I'm like, "I'm 19. I don't know anything about voice. I know about acting. I know about dance. I was always in plays. I was like all around, like in the arts and performing." So she's like, here's a curriculum right here on paper. You'll teach from this paper. I had 90 students the first year. It
Wow.
was on my block. I bought these wooden boards, put them on the floor, and taught tap dance and taught ballet and jazz. And I had a class. I was 19 years old. I had 40-year-old women in my class. And I promise you, I was teaching from the paper. I was just so confident that I just like bluffed my way through it. I had no idea what I was doing.
What gave you that confidence? You just knew that you had to do it, so you did it?
My mother says I was born confident.
Confident.
I'm just like I'm just like bossy. Like
Right.
like my kids are like really independent, and when they're bossy, I'm like, I don't know where they get it from.
Wow.
Like, they
Wow.
know what they want, they'll tell you what they want and how they want it. Since I was little, my mother would turn to me and say, "Devorah, can you get everyone to clean the house?" And I'd be like, "Okay, you're doing this, you're
Ugh,
doing that, you're doing that. Let's go, let's go."
so you like to control things, you like to
I
be
like to control, yeah, I like to
right.
be in charge and make things happen. So that started off, I worked there for 3 years. I got, so 19, 20, 21, I was not married, and I grew it. The first year we had 90 kids, and then 120, and then we had 180 kids
Mhm.
in our Sunday school, which I ran. I got married at 21, moved to Lakewood, and opened up another franchise, a second one for Malky Giniger. Also did the same thing, 90, 120, 180 kids. For 6 years, I worked for her. And along this whole time, I was pursuing the
You
sciences
pre-med.
in college and in pre med. Um,
It's
and
interesting
then
'cause usually you think of someone who's into pre-med and into the medical and the science different than people who are into the arts. So that's interesting that you have both components in your brain, I guess, or in your
different
makeup.
parts,
Yeah.
yeah, different parts, the different parents, and you have different parts of everyone,
Right,
you know?
right.
So, and then I got pregnant with my oldest. I had a really hard C-section and a really hard recovery. I was in the middle of studying for my MCATs at that point, and um, I was like just holding my little baby and looking down at him, be like, how am I going to leave him? How am I going to
Mhm.
be out of the house for so many hours, so many years, And I just all the emotions after a baby, I was just like, I don't know if this is the right route, and I rerouted. Um, and I decided that I like business, and there was a school right down the block from me, Georgian Court University in Lakewood. They had a part-time business school, and I got my MBA. That's what I
Mhm.
decided. I rerouted. It was a very hard decision. And along the way, I still kept up the School of Arts.
Mhm.
But that wasn't my real job. That
Mhm.
was Sunday. What about the rest of the week? What about my career? I'm like very ambitious. So I was looking for a job. I worked here, I worked there. I just wasn't happy. I tried so many things, and I'm like, you know what? I give up. I'm just going to be an artist. I took one room in my house, and I like even took like the baby changing station and like painted it and made that into my art easel. Like literally,
Right.
it's so funny. It's like full of paint. And I painted for 2 months. I painted, and I have beautiful paintings, and I wanted to kill someone. I was so bored. I was just looking at the 4 walls all day. I'm like, "This is not for me." Like, you can't make something happen.
You
I
more
I
interaction with
couldn't.
people, is that it?
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I
Mhm.
couldn't do it. And then I found a job that was marketing for someone who sold ingredients for cosmetics. So you needed to know chemistry, you needed to know the compounds. I'm like, oh, thank you, God. This is why you made me go into science and into business because of this job. I hated it. They made me they made me package most of the day. I was like a UPS employee, just like
Mhm.
packaging little samples and sending it to people and answering emails. And I was like, I'm wasting my life. I had like a couple of months where looking back, I was literally depressed. I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
know what to do with my life. And like, I'm not asking people to feel sorry for me.
Mhm.
Like, you do not need to feel sorry for me.
Right.
But a lot of times people look at someone on stage and they're like, I wish I had those talents.
Mm.
I wish I knew how to draw. I wish I knew how to sing. I wish I knew how to dance. I wish I knew how to do all these things. And sometimes when you have so many things pulling you in so many directions, it's
Mhm.
hard to choose. It's hard to figure out what to
'Cause you were
do.
talented in so many areas, so many skill sets.
Right.
Right.
And at the end of the day, some things are just part of your life to enhance your life, just to
Mhm.
make your life more enjoyable. Doesn't mean that everything you're good at needs to be a career. It needs to be something that you run after.
Do you feel that there
Um,
was kind of the hand of God guiding you into what you were meant to be doing?
100%,
Mhm.
100%. And along the way, whatever I was doing, I gave it my all. I
Mhm.
didn't know if this was going to work or not. Like when I decided to paint, I put my all into painting.
Mhm.
When I decided to do, study for my MCATs and do biology, do chemistry, like I got an amazing score,
Mhm.
like whatever I did 110%. That's
Mhm.
what kind of person I am. So, and remember, alongside this whole career journey was my Sunday programs.
Mhm.
And after 6 years of working for Malky Ginniger, our contract was up, and I opened up my own, without a franchise, I opened up my own school of arts. And my husband um, was saying that he was wondering if I really understood singing and if I really understood what I'm teaching in the voice program.
Mhm.
I'm like, excuse me, that is so rude.
Right.
Like everyone's coming to me to learn to sing. Like, what are you saying even? And looking back, like, that was the best thing he could have said.
Mhm.
And I went to Starbucks one day and looked for a voice teacher near me and just went to this person that had amazing students. And the voice teacher was like, "What are you doing? That's not how you sing.
Mm.
That is not right." And I was so taken aback. I like went home crying,
Mm.
and the teacher called me back up and said, "I'm so not my type to call anyone back up, but I think you misunderstood me, and um, I feel like you didn't understand my sense of humor."
Mm.
And I went back, and the joke is also imagine if I wasn't called, and imagine if I didn't go back.
Right.
And after 2 years of training with that teacher, I was encouraged to become a singer. And I was like, ha ha, funny joke. That's cute. Like, that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to become a singer. I have an art school that's on the side. It's not my main career. And I just want to make sure I'm teaching the right thing. My teachers are teaching the right thing. And on the wall in the studio was a bunch of students. It was about like 6 pictures, and all of them had one. Were either on Broadway, won international competitions, were like
Mm.
in commercials. And one day the teacher said, Debbie, which is, my English name, I want your picture for my wall. I'm like, oh,
Mm.
I made it onto the wall. And then like a few months later, I was moved up the wall. I'm like, oh, I didn't know there's positions on the
Right.
wall,
Wow.
And and my teacher asked me, so, when you're done with this, Orthodox thing, where you only sing for women, you really could be an international star.
Wow.
I'm like, "Okay, first of all, this Orthodox thing is not a phase. Like, this is my wonderful life and this is my religion. And it's not an option to
Mm.
go anywhere else. But there's no reason why this can't be a thing in the Orthodox world. I remember Kinneret, I remember Malki Kinniger, but obviously knowing me, I like to do things extra. Let's take it to the next level.
Mm.
And my husband was all for it and encouraged me to put out an album. And that's how it started. I put out an album and an amazing music video. There weren't really music videos out that said, even though it's on YouTube, it says for women only. And it was the start of it's a new career. It's a new, what's the word I'm looking for?
A
Um,
new goal, a new dream, a new ambition,
it's a new industry.
a new
It's a new
oh,
industry.
okay,
Yeah, it's
right.
it's a new industry.
Because maybe
And now
because women are there it hasn't been an industry where women are there was such an audience for women, just women-only
no,
singers.
no. And COVID is really what made it boom
Right.
because all of a sudden the world got smaller where, everyone from all over the world was just online, hanging
Mhm.
out on Instagram, hanging out, and just bored. And that's really how it took off. And there's so many artists next to me and around me that are following in these ways of, putting out their music and putting out videos. And it's really exciting.
So I find that interesting because here instead of feeling a resentment towards your convictions and your values, you just took it and said, "These are my values. Let me try to fit in my dreams into them." Right?
Um, Let me fit my dreams into my values. I hear what you're saying, but
In other words, you said, like,
you're
"Let's make it as big as I can." Like,
yeah,
I'm not gonna,
yeah,
like, I'll keep my values, but I'll still pursue my dreams, and I'll pursue my dreams to, all the way, and I'll just make sure that they fit into my values, though, that my values
100%. 100%. The level of the Orthodox male music industry um, is amazing. They have millions of views on YouTube.
Mm,
Um, Performing in Madison Square Garden, you know, tens of thousands of people you buy their concerts, especially if it's like open field concerts, and the level of professionalism is way up there. The music, everything is industry standard professional,
mm,
and there's no reason why women deserve less.
mhm.
So so many people have not, I remember, I moved into a new neighborhood, and if she's listening to this, she's gonna know that I'm talking about her. I came to sit on her couch Friday night, and I'm like, I really want to be a singer, and she's like, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Mm.
And every so often, she tells me like, I can't believe you did it. Like
Yeah.
and women don't deserve less. And so many people are like, well, you have half the audience because at concerts, live concerts, we don't allow men in. It's a women only concert. Sometimes if men work there, lights, music, it's different. But in the audience as a consumer, it's women only. So the famous thing everyone always says, the argument is, you only have half an audience. Okay, but every single Jewish community has women and girls that deserve top quality music that they could connect to, and it's very different to for girls to be connecting and women to be connecting to female songs sung by females and the messages we bring. It just feels different.
How does it
Uh,
feel different? Like, what do you see as a positive in that? I mean, I'm sure some of our listeners are also wondering, like, why is it that you can't sing in front of men, and what's the big deal, and what is it, it seems so restrictive, yet here you're talking about the energy of it and the positivity of it. So I think let's hear some more about that.
so it's an unbelievable feeling to be in a room, a big room or a small room, especially a big, stage, a big theater filled with women and girls that are all singing and really praying together.
Mhm.
I really look at concerts as like praying
Mm,
because a lot of the words we sing are words from prayers, are messages that are inspiring. If I had a, not if I, but if in the world at large, in what I'll call secular music,
mhm,
every female artist that is singing for a male and female audience is becoming more and more undressed as
mhm,
the years
mhm,
go on.
mhm,
My like a lot of my friends also, like our mothers and grandmothers have grew up with Celine Dion and Whitney Houston and like listening, like allowing our children to listen to the
mhm,
music that's out there. And um, the music is just becoming more and more explicit
mhm,
and just explicit.
mhm,
Everything's explicit. If you're a female, are you really selling your voice or you're selling your body?
mhm,
So it's not something I have resentment for. It's something I'm so grateful
mhm,
not to be a part of. Also, my son has done modeling when he was 2 years old. He was signed up to a modeling agency in New York, and used to drive him in, and you have a room full of people, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, all trying out for this one spot, and one person gets in, and then there's callbacks, and it's like, it's very not glamorous. A
mhm,
lot of sometimes I come across people that are religious. They're Orthodox, and they're like, such a shame. My daughter is so talented. It's such a shame. And I'm like, how can you say that? Like,
mhm,
first of all, because she can't perform in the world at large. Like, do you think it's a given that if you're talented, you're going to make it out there? Like,
mhm,
look around. How many people made it?
mm.
How many people want to make it? So
But you're saying even more
that's
than that, you
first of
wouldn't
all.
want you wouldn't wanna make it sounds like, in that world.
No, I wouldn't want to make it in that world. And I'm so grateful to be able to bring messages that are wholesome and that are inspiring.
Can you give us
And
examples? Like, what it looks like you look at your music as more of a I mean, you said the word it's like a prayer. I mean, that's so beautiful to see music as prayer. So how do you see your music in that way? How do you see your music as such a calling, as a spiritual endeavor, I guess?
it is a spiritual endeavor for me. For me, when I'm feeling down, um, I turn to music to
Mm,
soothe me or lift up my spirits, or let's say I'm, not processing what I'm going through, I'll listen to music and be able to feel what I'm feeling.
Mhm.
And like everything that we do, being religious, every time we're struggling, we turn to God and we pray,
Mhm.
please help me through this. Please, this should go well, praying for your kids, praying for when you're happy.
Mhm.
Thank you, God, for, I'm being grateful. So the human condition is that people suffer and people have moments of gratitude. And there's music just encapsulates all of those moments.
It's
And
the language of the soul, right?
it's a language of the soul. And you could have a whole room of people that do not know each other. And you put on music, and all of a sudden, everyone's connecting. Everyone's hands are around each other. Everyone's holding hands, and it's an uplifting thing. It's not something that brings people down and dirty. It's
Mhm.
an uplifting spiritual. That's how I look at it.
Right.
So,
That's beautiful. I mean, you mentioned also the immodesty in the secular world, so it contrasts to you. I've always seen your pictures of your performances, and you always are dressed so beautifully, yet so modestly. Can
thank you.
Yeah, no, could you tell us a little about what that modesty means to you?
So, I want I want the music and the performance to be about what the song is about.
Mm,
And that it's not about, look how I'm shaking my hips, look how
mhm,
I'm moving my shoulders, look how I'm, seducing you. Like
mhm,
that doesn't have a place in my
right,
music. It's more of like, let's jump, let's have fun, let's move to the music because we have so much joy, because we're having such a great time.
mhm.
So the modesty, like, just it's
It's a core
very
part.
much part. Yeah, it's a core part of it. I have, grown up being Orthodox from birth. So this is how I was raised to, you know, be covered. And also, my mother always dresses so well and so classy and has such great taste. And it's something that I take pride in. Like when you go on stage, everyone's looking at you. Give people what to look at. And I do like to be dramatic. So as much as I'm covered, I love to have a big bow in the back, or
Mhm.
a dramatic cape or a sleeve or something sparkly. So yeah.
Wow. Did you ever struggle with modesty at all? Or was it just something that you always appreciated?
When I was going through college, there was, and when I worked somewhere, there was definitely, I would say, like a couple of years earlier on in my marriage where I struggled with modesty. And I really struggled. Like
And
my skirts
how
got shorter and my sleeves got shorter and my neckline, like
how
like
did you
I went
overcome that?
through.
'Cause I don't see you that way at all now. I mean, you're
No, it
always
was like
dressed.
a phase. It was
Mhm,
like a phase, and then I, like, got shaken up, and I'm like, "This is not who I am. This is not who I wanna be."
mhm,
And, I started just, getting back to my roots and really, taking it's almost like taking on modesty, like, on purpose instead of like, "Oh, this is how I was raised, and this
mhm,
is my default." It's like, "No, this is who I wanna be. This is who I am."
mhm,
And, it's not about showing, like, it's almost like you need attention,
mhm,
and that's really what it is. I
mhm,
For me, it was like, "This is not how I want attention."
mhm.
So, yeah, went through a bit of
Interesting.
a phase there.
Do you see yourself as a role model for girls when you are up there on the stage? Is your singing
I
just singing, or is it more than that?
It is much more than that, because when you are in this kind of position, people do idolize you.
Mhm,
Um, it, it just happened. It's not something that I want, but it's something that is a reality
mhm,
of being in this position. And I do take it seriously. Um, in the sense that I, try to be more modest when I'm on stage
mhm,
and than I normally am, let's say in my everyday life, depending on the type of a show. It's almost like, when you go to a place that's holy, you're more conservative
mhm.
when you go there. So that's sort of how I look at it.
What do you prefer, happy songs or sad songs?
It reminded me of a DM that someone sent me, like, "Can you stop putting out sad songs?" every so often you get, like, poked at and hated on when you're online. So I think my voice is, like, just, like, very melodic, and I tend to my go-to is slower
Mhm,
songs,
mhm,
even if it's not sad, but just, like, slower, more melodic songs. Um, but I definitely enjoy fast pop
mhm,
songs,
mhm.
definitely.
Right,
Yeah. Especially with a crowd, like, you wanna get everybody up
right.
and enjoying, yeah.
So it's interesting that you kind of swerved in your career or in your livelihood with when you had a child, when you had your first son, um, because you felt motherhood was calling you. Do you ever feel that it interferes now in your life? Like, how do you
Definitely.
balance it? You're singing there, you're on concerts. How do you balance it with motherhood?
It's hard. It's hard. I feel again, I'm a person who gives 110%.
Mm,
So I want to just be a homemaker and make homemade cookies and pancakes. And sometimes I do, and gourmet suppers. We're big foodies here, and I love to cook. And, I look at my garage, I'm like, oh, it needs organizing. But at the same time, I'm being pulled to my music. And like, I was just telling my sister yesterday, like, I just want to go for 2 weeks into a cave and just produce music. And
mm.
no one's saying mommy, and no one's pulling me, and I don't have to do laundry, and I feel pulled in both directions. So yeah, but I definitely try to include my kids. I play new songs for them. Do you think this is mixed right? What do you think about this guitar? Like, I try to involve them
Are your
in what I'm
are your
doing.
children musical?
Yeah,
Do you want them to be singers?
I don't want them to be anything.
Uh-huh.
So
Interesting. Right, you let them do whatever they want.
let them. Yeah, yeah.
Now, I know
Yeah.
you've sung for so many different kinds of crowds. Can you give us some stories of inspiration from some of the places that you've sung for, whether it's in outreach or special needs children, something that touched you personally?
Sure. So, my first album I put out is called I Believe in Me. And the song I Believe in Me, that's third on the album. It's like a pop, girl pop, it has like a baby shark move, like claps across, it's like has this cute dance. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be great for my younger audience. And I happened to have sung it when I was in a rehab with a lot of elderly people and people that were going through rehab. And I'm like, why not? It's my hit song. I'll sing it. And afterwards, a lady came over to me and said, you have no idea how much that song touched me. I have to do physical therapy every single morning. And I'm just at a point where I just don't want to anymore. Like, what's the point?
Mm,
And your song is all about, no, I believe in me. Like, don't give up. I can do this.
mm,
I believe in me. And she's like, I am going to continue my physical therapy.
hmm,
And I was like, oh my gosh.
mm.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Wow.
So, yeah,
And
I
what
was like,
and what
wow.
was behind the song? Like, "I believe in me because why?" Like, why do you believe in you?
So, the song, I purchased the song, but the reason why I purchased it from a composer, why I connected to it is because, again, singing is not something that's like, I was told like, "Oh, Devorah, you're so amazing. Oh, that solo was amazing. Oh, you sound gorgeous." It's not something that's like, "Oh, you can sing." It wasn't something that I was told or
Mhm,
pushed towards. It was very much, "Can I do this? I don't know if I can do this."
mhm.
And it was like, "No, I believe in me. I can do this."
Do
So,
you look at it
yeah.
as, like, developing your God-given talents? The talents that God gave you, and how could you not?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Mhm. So that's
Yeah,
interesting.
like, I never thought I could take it this far or, like, where music can go.
Right.
Yeah,
I know you've sung
yeah,
for a lot of Chabad centers as well. Can you tell us some of
yeah.
those experiences?
So, I think the idea of what I represent when I stand up in front of a crowd is so mind-opening to people. Like,
What do you mean
I
by
I'm
that?
I'm classically trained. I sound like a professional singer when I sing.
Mhm,
And, when people hear me and, like, this is a wig and I'm dressed modestly, and
mhm,
they're like, "1 second, there's religious people that are on this level of professionalism, and they're a woman, and they're allowed to sing." Just the whole concept is mind-blowing. And then we're singing to words like Baruch Hashem, which means thank God. And like, I believe in miracles. And like, everyone's dancing to them. And it's just a different feeling. Like, like I think we take for granted
Mhm,
how amazing our music is and how uplifting it is
mm.
compared to secular music. And it's just amazing to see like their reactions and how they appreciate it and what it does for them.
Hmm.
So,
That's beautiful. Do you
yeah,
do you ever get inspired by your crowds?
always. Always. Sometimes I do events for special needs groups, or Down syndrome girls. And, sometimes I do it for free as a, um, not charity, but, giving my time.
Mhm.
And I think I'm doing them a favor, but I come away so much more inspired when you see someone who's not verbal, trying to talk and trying to sing some words and their face lighting up from their wheelchairs. There's nothing like it.
Wow,
It's yeah, it's beautiful.
wow. What inspires you? Like, what when you're not in the mood of singing or when you're not in the mood of being happy or performing, how do you inspire yourself?
So I actually had a couple months ago. I was performing in Florida, and our sound system didn't work.
Oh.
And I kept the doors closed, but our sound system didn't work, and I was panicking. And someone said something so rude to me, like right before people walked in the door, and I literally went to the corner of the room and just cried. Like I've learned, like, do not hold in your tears before a performance,
Mhm,
and it's so stressful. It's sound checks and shows. Like, just let it out, and move on. I went to the corner, I cried, took some deep breaths, sucked it in, and walked on stage and gave everyone an amazing performance. I mean, that's what professional is, right? You
right.
just gotta do your craft, and, I'm saying the music turns on and I get inspired,
Mhm.
I get lost in the music.
What are your dreams or thoughts for your future, goals for your future?
Um, I remember being on another podcast and someone asking me this question in the beginning of my career, and I said, "I just wanna be able to perform all over the world for women," and they're like, "Haha, nice try," you know? And it happened.
Mhm,
So, I hope this next dream happens. I really wanna go on a world tour, and I want it to be, like, big and professional with dancers and, all original music. Like, I just looking for sponsors, but,
Right. Right.
but that's the dream, go to every Jewish community and perform for the women and girls
Wow.
and bring joy and inspiration and uplift people.
Yeah, we
Everybody needs some of that,
we can all use absolutely, we can
right?
all use that 100%.
Yeah.
Is there a favorite song of yours that has, touches your soul, that has deep meaning to you, that you feel is a good prayer for you, that you think of when you
There's a couple that have not come out yet, but, very soon.
Uh-huh.
So,
Okay, we'll have to look
yeah,
out for those.
exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for joining us, Devorah.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having
Continue
me. I really
success in all
appreciate
that
it.
you do, and it's so beautiful how you are showing, how you can use your values, your strong values in such a beautiful way, and it's not a compromise, to the contrary, you're using your God-given talent to really inspire others and to pray with them in such a beautiful way.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Thank
Thank you.
thank you for joining us. Did you enjoy this interview? It was interesting for me to hear the kind of behind the scenes of a singer, professional performer who is somewhat of a celebrity in our community, who to hear what it's like for them from their perspective, how she got into it, how she actually changed herself in order to accommodate her new position. So she has to go over to people and she has to be more talkative and she has to try to make them feel better and make her fans feel welcome when they come over to her. I thought that was a very sensitive part of how she really changed herself to accommodate the viewers and the fans of hers who look so much up to her. What most stood out from this interview for me was her explanation of her singing as a woman, how she did not have to compromise on her values and standards, how she's obviously a woman who pursues excellence, yet she could still pursue that excellence and that those big productions, which she really started, um, well, without compromising who she is as a Jewish woman, while just singing to only women crowds and while always maintaining her dignity and her pride as a Jewish woman. I loved how she explained modesty and how she looked at modesty in such a positive way, and how her audience could see it. Even audiences that were not religious could see an Orthodox religious woman who is fully Torah observant, who sings to only women crowds, and who is dressed totally appropriate, singing beautiful music, not music that is full of all kinds of negative and derogatory words and images, but rather words, really, as she explained, words of prayer, words that can uplift, words that can connect us to our soul. And that really, truly is the power of music. If you enjoy watching these interviews, I hope you are subscribed at Chabad.org/extraordinary. And if you are watching us as well, you can find us on Spotify or Apple or any podcast platforms. We're there while you take your walk, while you exercise, or while you do some cooking in your kitchen. Please check us out there. Give us a heart, give us a like. We really appreciate when you leave these kind of feedback. We also love to hear from you, and it's so interesting and amazing to hear from different people about the different things that are in an episode that really touched them to the core or really inspired them. And sometimes we get just such diverse things that really, something that really just touched one person and might not even touch another person, but it's really nice to hear something that really you felt and you connected to our interviews. Thank you again so much for watching these interviews, and thank you for being part of this extraordinary community.